Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm excited about tonight's dish. This dish we're making tonight is vegan macaroni and cheese. And if you are a vegan or even not, you've probably had your share of vegan macaroni and cheese. And I have found that I've always been incredibly underwhelmed with it. So I set about creating the perfect macaroni and cheese. And I have fixed this dish for numerous people, and I put real macaroni and cheese right next to vegan macaroni and cheese, and they have not been able to tell the difference. Or they have preferred the flavor of the vegan macaroni and cheese. So I'm actually setting a pretty high bar for myself by saying all that, but I'm gonna say it. It is absolutely delicious. My best friend, Stacey Campbell Marshall, is a macaroni and cheese connoisseur, and she loves it, but she said it always gives her intestinal discomfort because of all the lactose and all that. So she loves the fact that I make this and she's able to eat it and not feel sick. I'm gonna have to do something bootleg because I have to cut off, I have to take something out the oven, but I'm gonna keep talking to you in the meantime. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get our pasta noodles started. So one of my keys, I've told you all, one of the things that I do in my cooking is by building layers of flavor. And I've picked up some incredible tips along the way, and I'm going to share those with you in making this perfect vegan mac and cheese. The first thing I do is I cut an onion and I drop half of an onion, white, yellow, it doesn't matter. I drop it in the water and let the water come to a boil. And then I put my noodles in. Now, when I cook my noodles, I always slightly undercook them. I don't cook them for the whole, say, 10 or 11 minutes. If it says 6 or 7 minutes on the box, that's typically I'll do it a minute later. And the reason why, a minute shorter, and the reason why is because it's going to continue to cook in the oven when you bake it, if you do bake it. Even if you don't bake it and you finish it on stovetop, it still continues to cook for a little bit. So that's why I do that. I don't like mushy macaroni and cheese, okay? So forgive me, I'm gonna step away, but I'll be right back. All right. This is low budget. Okay, so there are a few key things that I have tried along the way in making my macaroni and cheese, and I really don't stick to a particular type of milk or anything like that unless somebody makes a comment like, I don't like the taste of coconut milk. The reason I say that is that I have found one of the ways to make the most luscious, creamy macaroni and cheese is using either coconut milk or evaporated coconut milk. Yes, that is on the market. I learned about evaporated coconut milk in making macaroni and cheese from my husband's side of the family, which is Haitian, and they have a very simple way of making a delicious macaroni and cheese. And it's simple. It's very, very simple. And one of the key ingredients is evaporated milk. So I use evaporated coconut milk. Today, I'm not going to use that because some of you may not like it, and I'm trying to create something that's right in the middle of the road. So what I'm going to use is Oatly full-fat oat milk. This oat milk is literally one of the best things I've tasted. It resembles whole milk to me. I love it. I love it. I love it. So that's going to go in there. The other key ingredient is silken tofu. I don't know if you can see this package. Yes, there we go. Silken tofu. Not firm, not extra firm, silken tofu. It has a creaminess to it as well. All of this contributes to the creaminess of the sauce we're making. We're actually making something that is similar to a bechamel. That's what we're doing with this. Another key ingredient is coconut oil. And I use, see if I can get, you can see that. Let me move these lights out the way. I've got these lights in here because I'm so chocolate so you all can see me, but I think it's messing up. Okay, here you go. So I use this coconut oil, and I like to get the butter flavor because, again, it adds a little different, something to the mix. All right, so one thing that I added that I did not have in the ingredients that you all may be following this evening, I actually added a little bit of pala namak. It has an eggy kind of flavor, and it just adds a little something that takes the macaroni and cheese to the next level. So one thing that I'm going to say is that this sauce that we create for the noodles, it is a bit salty. Okay, I don't like to do salt like that. But the reason that I'm doing this is because you want the noodles to be well seasoned. Okay, so the sauce that we're creating is going to be a little bit on the salty side. It's going to go in, attach to the noodles. It's going to turn into this creamy, delicious sauce and the perfect bite. Now, also, this is macaroni and cheese. Y'all don't fix this every week. This is once in a while. It is healthier than regular macaroni and cheese, but it is still a bit indulgent. And we need to keep that in mind in the vegan world. I think I've shared with you all, just because something is healthy doesn't mean you can just eat it until you pop. You still need to practice moderation, right? So our noodles are just about done. We've got about 2 minutes left. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how quickly, how simply to do this sauce. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop a package of the silken tofu into our blender, just like that. We're going to take 1/4 to 3/4. The ingredient I just put in, Lana, was silken tofu. I don't know if that's what you're asking. This is about a 1/2 cup to a 3/4 cup of nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is going to give you that cheesy flavor, and it also provides vitamin B12, and that is something that vegans tend to lack because vitamin B12 is typically found in animal protein, okay? So we're gonna add this. Now this is something that you can add as little or as much of it as you want. This is one of those recipes. I add about 1/4 to a 1/2 of a raw onion. Now, I got this tip from Melvin Flowers, who went to church with me at Breath of Life in Inglewood, California. He told me that his mother's secret was to grate raw onion in the mix right before you bake your macaroni and cheese. So I said, an even better way to get that flavor throughout is to blend it in the sauce. So I dropped it. Stay with me. Stay with me. I know that sounds a little crazy, but it works. I'm dropping that in there. I'm dropping in 1/2 of a pimento pepper. This is what I'm using for my color, to give it that cheesy color. So you can also use oven roasted butternut squash. You can use oven roasted bell peppers on your own. You can use oven roasted carrots to give you that color, and the flavor will be negligible. All right, the next thing we're doing is we're adding a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. Now you can use low sodium, you can use Bragg's liquid amino if you want, but make sure you add something that has that salty soy type of flavor to it. I'm gonna add some paprika. Smoked paprika gives this a delicious flavor, so that's going in there. My kala namak, my black salt that you all have made the tofu scramble, you know about this, that's going in there. 2 cloves of garlic. And because I'm West Indian and West African and always like a little bit of pepper, I'm putting a whole wiri pepper in here. You don't have to use it. You can use cayenne if you want to, red pepper flakes, whatever you want, it works. I use one pepper. I don't know how much of what are you referring to, Yolanda. So my pasta is done. I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna drain this. Oops, where are my little things? Oh, here they go. Because I burned my hand earlier, I don't want to do that again. I'm taking my pasta off the stove. Okay. So all of those things are in there. To this, we're still going, we're still going. We are gonna add 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. The egg flavor. The egg flavor, you have to play around with that. Some people may not like it. I would say like a quarter of a teaspoon, because you just want to hit, it's very strong, so you don't want much of it. And then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of this butter flavored coconut oil. Again, this is going in there because it just creates this lusciousness that just grabs hold of those noodles and it makes it super creamy and delish. So you don't want to skip that. All right. So all those things are in there. And to that, I'm going to add about a cup to a cup and a half of oat milk. Now, the thing about this, it's always great to have extra sauce with this. This is one of those dishes that you literally can, mix together and cover and then bake the next day. But if you do that, you need to have some extra sauce. So when you take it out of the refrigerator the next day, what you're gonna do is like use a knife and kind of separate the noodles a little bit and then just pour, like maybe quarter cup or an eighth of a cup worth of the sauce throughout it to kind of loosen it up. This is also one of those dishes that as it sits, it just gets better and better and better. So we've got everything in here. We're just gonna blend it up. Want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay. Clear out my space. All right. Here. Bring our pot back. I'm just going to take out the onion that was in there. And one thing I want to say, the onion, the raw onion in the sauce, what it actually does is it gives your macaroni and cheese like a sharp cheddar flavor. So if you're one of those people that likes sharp cheddar cheese, like, in your mac, that's it. If you don't, what I would do is I would actually use the boiled onion and I would just drop that in my mix and add that. So it adds a little bit more, but it's not as strong. Okay, so now after this is boiled, I add a little plant-based butter. This is Earth Balance. And I'm gonna mix it through. If you all have any questions about anything, let me know. A couple of weeks ago, I was at Publix and they were having a sale on BioLife shredded cheese. And I think my best friend Stacy was in town, and I think we bought up everything they had because it was at such a great price. And it's such a great product. And guess what the magic ingredient in BioLife is? Coconut oil. I just think coconut makes the world go round. I really do. I never get tired of coconut. The best vegan ice cream I've had, when I was in culinary school in Austin, Texas, there was a place called Sweet Ritual. It was a vegan ice cream shop. Every ice cream was divine, and they used a coconut milk base. So if you're not with the coconut milk program, you need to get with it. All right, so I have buttered my noodles. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pour out some of the sauce, probably half of the sauce. And it absolutely You can smell the call in the muck. It's not necessarily the best smell, but it's got an incredible flavor. So we want to saturate these noodles. If you can see, I really don't think you can have too much sauce with this because, like I said again, what's going to happen is the mix of the starch from the noodles and the coconut oil and the silken tofu, all of that comes together and it just attaches to those noodles and makes it delicious. So here's where you can also practice free license, depending on how much cheese you want. I know people, for whatever reason, they go bananas when it comes to cheese and their macaroni and cheese, and they'll use like 12 cheese macaroni and cheese and stuff like that. I don't necessarily like that. But if you do, hey, go out and get all kinds of different cheeses and you can grate them and you can, this is the point where you put that in here. Your noodles are still hot. So I'm gonna take a handful of this cheese. I've got some more, don't worry. And I'm just going to mix it. And the reason I do this is because this does give it that, it adds to the creaminess. It definitely does. Now, one of the challenges with this cheese, I'm just gonna dump the rest because I have another package. One of the challenges with this cheese, I tell people, excuse me, you recommend ground mustard for coloring. No, I don't, because ground mustard has a flavor. Now, if you like the flavor of ground mustard, go for it. I personally think, well, look at this. This looks, I don't think it needs any other color to it. I think it's fine. What I would probably say that you want to do, if you want to make it a little more yellowish looking, maybe a pinch of turmeric, because then not only do you have the color, you have the nutritional benefits, but be sure to add a pinch of black pepper. Because remember, turmeric, what's so great about turmeric is the curcumin. And the curcumin, to be bioavailable and to absorb into your body, it needs a pinch of black pepper. So if you do use turmeric, it'll give you that color and you'll get some extra antioxidant, anti-inflammatory goodness in your dish. So I'm gonna just add a little more sauce. And you see, I have about 14 ounces of sauce left. And trust me, you're gonna wanna keep this sauce on hand. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna grab my dish that I've already sprayed, and I'm going to put this in a pan. Now, what you could do, as I mentioned earlier, this cheese, while it is delicious and it melts, we do have to help it along a bit. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this back on the stove so I can kind of coax that cheese into melting a bit. Now, you don't have to do this. You may use another cheese that does not need that, but my experience with this cheese is that it needs not much, but it needs a little bit of help. I don't know what cheeses you all use. I have made this macaroni and cheese with cashew cheese, but if somebody has a nut issue, of course you want to avoid that. But it's delicious. It definitely has a slightly different taste, but it is good nonetheless. There's so many ways to make a delicious vegan macaroni and cheese, but I would say the key is creating a sauce. You need a sauce. If you just grate cheese and you put it with your noodles, it's not gonna work. And then you also want to work, like I said, the sauce has to be very aggressively flavored because you're trying to create a cheese flavor. And when you think about it, the cheeses that I know for me, the cheeses that I like are really strong cheeses. So that's why I was suggesting that you kind of just a little heavy-handed with the seasoning. So I'm just gonna let this cook. Turn this up a little bit. Let me just I'm gonna put a timer on so I don't get distracted. So there are so many different ways to make healthier options, especially around the holidays. This is the time, I mean, given COVID and the holidays, some of us are busting out of our clothes, me included. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to try to eat your traditional favorites with like a healthy spin. So here are some of my suggestions. One is this macaroni and cheese. It has fat, but it doesn't have animal fat. It's not fat that's going to clog up your arteries, okay? And remember, we said that this is a once in a while thing. Also, sweet potatoes. With my sweet potatoes, what I tend to do, oh yeah, this is doing great. What I tend to do with my sweet potatoes, one of the things you can do to add sweetness to them, you can oven roast your sweet potatoes before you mash them. That brings about a caramelization and a sweetness, and you'll have like these little crispy pieces in there that I think are delicious in texture. I use fresh ginger. When I boil or I oven roast my sweet potatoes, I'll put them in a bowl and I'll use some of that fresh squeezed ginger, the one that I've shown you all, I'm sure. I've shared that with you. Or you can use your own. You can mortar and pestle your own ginger. Or you can use ginger powder if you don't want to have it so aggressive, because that is a strong flavor. But you can do that. You can use maple syrup or honey or agave in place. You can also use xylitol. You can use monk fruit. And things like that, it's not going to be as obvious. Use cinnamon, use cloves, use nutmegs. Build those layers of flavor so you don't feel like you've got to overdo it with sugar. And the other thing that I've also shared with you all is that we can retrain our palates. If you've eaten it a certain way for 30, 40 years, it doesn't mean you can always teach an old dog new tricks. Not calling you a dog. You know what I'm saying? It's a metaphor. So there are ways to adapt traditional foods and still make them delicious. Another thing that I like to do, okay, yeah, this. Y'all are not ready. You're not ready. Okay. So I coax this along a little bit. Look at that. You see that creaminess? Do you see that? You see it sliding out the pot? I don't think you're ready. Let me just move this. Turn that off. So this right here, I almost don't even want to, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Okay. So this right here is going to go into this dish to bake because there's something about my people. It's not macaroni and cheese unless it's baked. Woo-wee. Could you write that question again? I just missed it. I looked away. Ooh, this looks good. This is about to be good. This is about to be gooder than a mug. So the last thing we're gonna do, excuse me, is sprinkle a little cheese on top. And really, with this, you don't really even need to bake this. You could, because it will solidify it a little more. But what I might do is just put this under the broiler for a little bit. Now, the challenge with this cheese, again, you have to coax it. It has to be baked, yes. You have to coax it. So I tend to, after I put it on top, I kind of press it down a little bit. What you could do is you could tent it. Just make sure that you don't press it onto the cheese, because then when you take off the tent of foil, all the cheese will be on it. So I am going to go put this in the oven. I'll be right back. Okay. Y'all, you know what's so funny? Every time I do dishes with you all, I cook 2 dishes because I don't want you to have to wait while I don't know why everything is itching me tonight. While I, go through the motions, I want to say, put it in the oven and voila. Okay. So the funny thing about that is I was gonna have 2 dishes of macaroni and cheese, and I just talked about moderation. So I decided I was gonna go ahead and bake the 2 of them, and I was gonna take one over to Mom Campbell, Stacy's mom, who lives down the street now. She likes my macaroni and cheese, so I'm gonna get it out the house. Because let me tell you, I would find an excuse. Breakfast, macaroni and cheese. Lunch, macaroni and cheese. Dinner, macaroni and cheese. Snack, macaroni and cheese. And my husband, he has a pasta ministry. He literally can eat pasta every day. When he was a little boy, they used to call him caroni, like for macaroni. So we don't need that much temptation now. Anywho, so this is the one that I did before. And if you notice, like I told you, this cheese needs a little coaxing. It doesn't melt like you really need to. How I did it in the pot is the best way to do it. Now, one great thing about this macaroni and cheese, I think I told you earlier, it honestly gets better every day. It gets better. It really does. So I'm going to serve out some of this and I'm going to taste it. She will be. So this is what it looks like. And again, the other one's gonna look slightly different because I did it on the stove after I mixed everything together. And I would suggest you do that because that way you're going to absolutely have the cheese is gonna be thoroughly incorporated in there, the shredded cheese and the cheese sauce. It'll be great. So that's what I would suggest you do. And I used large elbows in the first one that I did. And I don't know if you all can hear it. Mm, mm, mm. And what I like to do, because I like heat, I'm just gonna put a few red pepper flakes. I should actually ask my husband if he wants some. Babe, do you want some of this macaroni and cheese? Come on down, come on down, come on down. And we like to make things pretty. So unnecessary with macaroni and cheese, but I like to make things pretty. I'm not finished already. You're actually in the show. Yeah. I don't know anybody who eats this little amount of macaroni and cheese. But come on, babe, let's try it on camera. Come on. So I did the large elbows this time. Let's see, I added a little column of muck in it this time.
That's good. That's really good.
My husband, who has the pasta ministry, said it's good, very good. It is. I would absolutely recommend, if you have the column of muck, use like a 1/4 teaspoon of column of muck in the mixture. And when you mix it all together, after you've boiled your noodles and you pour the sauce in, and you do a handful or 2 of that cheese, put it back on the stove, mix it together well. Oh yeah, let's do that. Mix it together well, pour it back in your baking dish, cover it with cheese, make sure you push that cheese like in there because you want to coax it along. And bake it just long enough to warm it through. Now, I'm going to share a few things with you. I've talked to you about my tofu. And if you can see that, I have my quarantine curry, I have my tofu scramble, and I have my diaspora chili blend. I don't know if you all can see that. Those bright lights are so bright. But anyway, go to my page. These seasonings will be featured there. You have to have these in your life. They were made with love. They have been tested over and over again and used by me in various ways, and they're delicious. But this macaroni and cheese, this is really good. I really want you all to try it. Don't even make the regular macaroni and cheese. What you think you should do? Just make it and put it out on the table and don't even tell anybody and see what they say. At worst, they'll think that you use some kind of different cheese or something. They will not know. And if they do notice it, so what? We're eating healthier, we're eating for health, we're eating for life, and we're satisfying our taste buds at the same time. So, thank you for joining me. If you all have any questions, please let me know. Of course, this will be on the Reclamation Project page immediately, and I will be sharing it on my page as well. Thank you for supporting the Reclamation Project and reclaiming your health. Thank you for supporting me. I'll see you next week.